Hello, everyone. My name is Trish Ellis, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to Attitudinal Healing International's webinar series, Attitudinal Healing Around the World. Today, it's my great pleasure to introduce Tasha Abdou and Maria Abanga from Cameroon Center. Tasha is the founder and the president of the Cameroon Center for Attitudinal Healing, and he's also a program operations manager for TAMCO Systems. Tasha is an experienced teacher, coach, and facilitator, as well as a program manager, and he has vast experience in high school education, curriculum design, and cross-cultural relations. Tasha founded the Attitudinal Healing Center in Cameroon after a powerful experience that he had at a low point in his life. He discovered Dr. JAMPOLSKY's book, Love is Letting Go of Fear, and it transformed his own life, and he's been using attitudinal healing since then to transform the lives of many other people along the way. It's also my pleasure to welcome Maria Abanga. She is a barrister by profession, is also educated in psychology, and has recently joined Attitudinal Healing in Cameroon as the Secretary General for the organization. She's a passionate advocate of women's rights, a mental health advocate, and a motivational speaker and author, as well as a barrister. So she's kind of a Renaissance woman. Marie has also worked as a consultant and has managed the African region of the Women in Parliament Global Forum. So she does some very powerful work not only in her own community, but in communities around the world. So welcome, Tasha and Marie. We're so excited to hear about your experiences with the Power to Choose program. Welcome.
Thank you, Trish. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Trish. I am very, very glad to be here and to share my experience and my attitudinal healing journey with all the participants of this program. Today is really a great day for me because it gives me an opportunity to be able to commune, to communicate with people I may like to call kindred spirit. Actually, my journey, like it said in the introduction, started with the reading of JAMPOLSKY's book, and today I can say that it has literally transformed my life. And I'm very grateful for that.
All our award-winning program implementation concept of the Power to Choose as developed by AHI. We want to let us all in on the program as a model for creating a more compassionate generation of future leaders, young ones, people who will grow up feeling empowered to make the right choices in their lives through the different principles, AH principles will teach them, through the different examples, and through the micro projects we always encourage them to put into practice after each program. So we designed a presentation plan to guide us through our presentation. So we had 4 main lines. The power to choose. We looked at the need, the concept, the target beneficiaries. We looked at the program itself as a successful model because we've been implementing it for 3 years now. So we'll look at the implementation case study, and then we will look at the testimonials from the participants and from the administrative authorities of the various schools where we've implemented this program, because we know that these testimonials attest to the success of the program. And of course, our implementation didn't just end at the level of being appreciated by the schools. We got an award in 2014. I mean, the converted JAMPOLSKY award. It was such an honor for us. So we are very grateful for that. Now, what's the way forward? Who are the different stakeholders we could bring in to expand this program, the implementation? What are the challenges? And then, what is the global replication of the implementation? Finally, we will go to our conclusion, where we will open the floor for questions, and then we will attempt answers. So that's the plan we had for you all this evening. And so if anybody has any remark, and if there's no remark, we could just start with our presentation. Need, concept, target beneficiaries. We began by looking at the need, because we can implement the power to choose in any setting, in any group of people, but we realized that it was very important to start with our youth, because sometimes when they become adults, it is a bit too late to kind of bring them to change their attitudes and to be able to make better choices, positive choices. So we decided to go to communities, but then we realized that it's a bit difficult to get into full-scale communities, and so we went to school. So why? Because of course the major obstacles to youth emancipation in our environment, our communities, the vicious cycle of poverty, which sometimes exposes these youth to dangerous activities, to, let's say, drugs and all of those things. Civil unrest right now in Cameroon, we have what is called the Anglophone crisis, and a lot of youths dropped out of school to join this crisis, and different gangs are coming up. And so going to schools, going out to communities to reach out to these youth is very important right now, so that they know that whatever choice they make now will have long-term effects on their lives. And then we are all aware of family challenges, abuse, neglect, and trauma. And so these children, the youth, sometimes they come to school with all of this backlog of trauma, of abuse from home, and then they take it out on their friends in school, on themselves. And so we just thought that helping them in the school setting would empower them to go back home and to approach all what is going on differently, and to have a different
Marie just talked about the need of the program, and that was quite it. We are in a country where a greater population is made up of the youth, and right back in 2011, when I looked around my community, and I was working with a group of young people. We're trying to put in place an peer support group, and we try to manage it together. And I noticed that most of them will not come to meetings, sometimes because, you know, they expect to make some money in anything that they do, and therefore bringing up themselves was not the best way to invest their time. And I I thought, therefore, that if there's another concept that we can use to help them learn about attitudinal healing principle, that would be more interesting for them and help them use it in their immediate affairs, that could be useful. And that's how I came across the Power to Choose program on the Attitudinal Healing website. And after talking with Alonso, Diana, we thought it was a good idea that we could implement it here. We talked to Orlando Bad in Mongolia, who had recently just implemented the program in her country, in her community, and she was very instrumental in helping me understand how she did it in Mongolia and how I can adapt it for my own community. That started the whole adventure, and the whole reason was to help the youth acquire the attitudinal healing principle in a way that they will be able to appreciate it and use it immediately in their difficulties of life. And one of it was their educational difficulties. When we look at the way schools are organized here, if you have a class of students of about 150 with a teacher, the teacher hardly knows each student by name. And you have students in class that the teacher doesn't know if they are fully registered in that school or not. So students live generally in fear because sometimes they are infiltrated by people who are not students of that school but who have come either to sell drugs or to do other immoralities or vandalism. Because of this environment, students find it very difficult in the first place to study in their schools. They encounter things like brutality, what usually is passed for brutality in schools, and younger students are brutalized by the older ones. So I thought if they could use the principles of attitudinal healing, they will start solving such a problem in their daily lives, and in that way they can develop and enhance their choices in life. That is how we came about starting this program. And with the help of quite a number of people, and I will take the time here to say thank you to Lindor and of course the headquarters were able to put the program in place the first time here in government bilingual school here in Daido, and the effect has been very tremendous, even though the challenges have equally been quite enormous. We have tried as much as we can to help the students to be able to learn these principles during a number of sessions, normally 12 sessions per program. So we can do each program goes for 12 weeks, and each week we have 1 to 2 hours session where we have a round with the students and we talk about a specific theme, and using a particular principle of attitudinal healing to highlight the various things that they can use in order to make choices that make sense and that take them towards their goals in life. So that was the concept of how we try to develop the program in Cameroon, and it was based on the fact that we were looking forward to have leaders in future that will actually have self-esteem for themselves, and that they will be able to be agents of positive change, because our country was at a point where they needed new leaders that could be able to be less corrupt and more passionate and more compassionate in their way of dealing with the population. So we thought this was one way that attitudinal healing principle could contribute for the emancipation of the youth of this country, and why not extend it to other African countries as well. So this is how we came about the concept of implementing the youth program in Cameroon, which was the Power to Choose. So some of the attitudinal healing principles that we used included the principle number 2, which says health is inner peace and healing is letting go of fear. Because the students were plagued with fear at home, in school, even on their way to school, there are a lot of things that could happen. Younger girls are raped, boys are beaten, and their food or money taken away from them, so they go to school, the whole day they will not have anything to eat, and sometimes they are forced to be agents that are used to sell drugs in the community. So they were plagued with fear, and sometimes this fear will transform into health issues that their parents will be struggling with. So we thought that principle as well, which was integrated in the program, could equally help them to understand how they can approach their fear in order to better enhance their environment. So principle number 4 as well, which talked of the fact that we can let go of the past and of the future. Most of the students, beside the difficulties in their life, also had difficulties in school, in the sense that some had failed and were repeating, and they thought what happened to them is likely going to happen again. So we wanted them to realize that they might have been wayward in the past, but they can let go of that past and walk in the now, so that they can build a better future for themselves. So that principle was very handy for them to understand that concept. We equally had the other principle, which says we can learn to love ourselves and others by forgiving rather than judging. That was quite rampant in the school. There was constant fighting and judging even between teachers and students as well. So bringing this principle to the children was very, very handy. It was very useful for them to begin to realize that the choice that they are making in hanging on to their guilt or not forgiving their friends that have done something or their teachers that have done them wrong is not helping them, but rather putting them away from the goals they were seeking for within the school campus. Am I being heard?
Ask the need about this one, please.
So we are talking about the various principles that we're using, and I'm wondering if I skipped any. I was on principle number 7, which was one of the main principles that we're using during our circles, and which was well appreciated by the students. I'll start by, of course, acknowledging the fact that we had these principles illustrated by Anne-Marie from Holland, which we are very grateful for, because the illustration was very useful for the students, given their age, to relate to what the wording was all about, and to interpret it faster and see how they can implement it in their life. So we talked about principle number 2, principle number 4, number 6, which of course we said we can learn to love ourselves and others by forgiving rather than judging. And that was quite very important for the students to learn and see how they can approach each other, and by so doing avoid a lot of brutality that they were inflicting on each other. Principle number 7 was particularly very important for them, because it says we can become love finders rather than fault finders. And that was predominantly what they were doing. Most of the way they interact with each other was finding fault. A student will see only the torn part of the shirt of his brother, and most often there was that issue of stereotype where you have students labeled as poor or rich depending on how they appear in school. So this principle was helping them to see the good in their friends and to relate to them based on the good that is defined. And the principle number 8 was particularly also very important because it helped them to choose better. Because the principle said we can choose and direct ourselves to be peaceful inside regardless of what is happening outside. And I want to say that during the program, most of the students, especially girls, who lived in foster homes, and when I say foster homes, I really mean not living with their biological parents. In Cameroon particularly, most parents have other brothers or cousins to help them educate their children, and these children have to move from their homes and live with these uncles or aunts. And sometimes the way they are treated at home is not the same way they treat the other children that are theirs at home. So they find that difference very annoying and sometimes feel like they are living very bad life in those homes. So when they learned that they were also free to see things from a different angle, to not feel hurt inside despite what was happening at home and even in school, that kind of liberate their spirit and made them focus more on what they really want on life rather than what they don't want, which was what was happening around them in school and at home. And in principle number 12, which we can always perceive ourselves and others as either expending love or giving a call for help, most students equally related to this one during the program, especially because when they were talking, during their sharing, you find most of them having the difficulties of provocation. You know, they feel that if somebody talks to them, if somebody looks at them in a particular way, that person is actually hurting them. And not knowing that they are the one interpreting that as being hurt. So when they understood that, they could see people who show them love as people who want their good, and people who, in a way, does not show them love as people who need their own love. They were very, very interested in trying this principle out, and towards the end of the program, most of them realized that it was actually possible to see those people as needing their help with love. And the principle number 9, which is principle number 9, of course, is the one that they really got started with, was the fact that it was as if they discovered for the first time that teachers also can learn from students. It was so particular about in that sense because in our country, teachers are those that know, and students are the empty vessels. And so they are supposed to be filled, they are supposed to be stocked with knowledge. And sometimes, even what they know, they want to take it up to the teacher, are always played down. So knowing from this that they also have something to teach the parents and the teacher was so interesting for them and put them in a position where they felt that they could be of use to their community. And that made a great change in most of their lives. So, when we look at those who benefited from the program, we find primarily the youth aged between 11 years and 17 years. Remember, if we look at the Cameroon population, most of the population, the greater part of the population are youth. And so if they are benefited, if they could change their view, the way they live, then we are impacting a greater number, or those who make the change in the country. And we thought that this was very important for us to push through. We also, of course, thought of the secondary beneficiaries, which included their schoolmates. Once somebody is reformed, then the person who lives near him or her will equally benefit from that reformation. And their teachers as well, we will see the sharing of their principals, who was very happy realizing that he could move the school and find smiles in the faces of those who were with him, and she realized that it was basically students who were participating in the program who were now behaving differently and seeing teachers with a different viewpoint. And then we also have their families and the community at large, because most of them, even as time have passed, some are even married, some are in the university, they keep sending us information about how their life is being impacted and how they are more accepted in other communities and in other families where they go to continue their education. So, like we said, the case study that we had here was the Government Bilingual High School here in Daido, which we carried out the program in for 3 years and could not continue. One of the reasons being that the principal who was particularly supporting that program was transferred to another school, and the new principal was not quite friendly and did not give us all the possibilities to carry out the program the way we wanted to do it. So we decided to change the strategies, and particularly also because our association was not yet fully legalized, so we needed to do that in order to come back and probably get the school to give us the mandate to continue the program or go to different schools. So we actually did work with about 110 students who effectively went through the program, because of course when students opted to do the program, somehow for one reason or the other some dropped out, and so at the end of the program we counted just those that effectively went through the 11-week program. So we had about 110 students that registered their presence in all the sessions throughout the program. And that was quite interesting, because if we are able to send this number every year out into the community, we are kind of sending a ripple that will gradually bring peace in the community, especially such as us, which is full of strife and competition. So it was very important also for us at that time to receive the recommendation letter from Dr. Dean Soluzioni, because that was what opened a lot of doors, especially that of Government Bilingual High School. Also because the government schools work always with the government programs, so if you come with something that is not fully backed, sometimes they reject it without even knowing the content. So with the letter from AHI, it was quite very important. It was easier for us to get the doors open to go in and talk to the students and get the program going in that school. So to kick off the program, we needed all of that. We needed the support of AHI, which we had. We needed some financial support because the materials to do the program and communicate and get facilitators to come on board and participate needed some minimum finance, which of course we received all that support and we're able to do it. So one of the things that I would like to stress here is that we didn't accept students without the authorization of their parents or guardians. One of the reasons being that in our community there is a lot of issues related to new thoughts, such that parents sometimes are skeptical to expose their children to anything that is not what is orthodox, what the parents know. And we needed only parents who will appreciate that their children get involved in our program before we can accept the children in that program. That was to avoid any difficulties that may come up, that we are maybe not giving the children what their parents want. So for that reason, we had to produce an intake form, which actually insisted that if the parents don't sign the form, then the child will not be accepted in the program. So as you can see, we had quite a number. One other thing that I will stress here is that we noticed, and I am yet to know why, that most of the participants were girls. Girls were more interested and more active in the program than boys, and at the end of the program they were very happy. Also that more of the girls were having difficulties, which sometimes they expressed after some few sessions, they were able to find that the space was quite safe and that they could share some intimate difficulties they were having at home with their parents or with their foster parents, and that was quite helpful for them to move ahead. So that is something I was really amazed about. I was wondering why the boys were not as interested as the girls were. But to me, it's an important thing because the girls are the women tomorrow, and they are the ones who are going to educate the children. So here we find also the condition in which we're working in classrooms, and sometimes there was so much noise because the GBHS Dido is a very small space with about 6,000 students that come in that space and cram inside every day. So even when you are given a classroom to work, while you are working, you have thousands of students in adjacent classes. So it was quite difficult to work in an environment like that. Even though they gave us at the same time their library hall to work with. The library hall equally were most often occupied by teachers' meetings, and so each time we come for our session and it's occupied, we have to look for a classroom where we can have our meeting. And that was quite difficult, and that helped some students to drop out because sometimes they don't know in which class we went, and they just go home because they think that the program didn't hold. So we have some testimonials from some students that I would like Marie to read and to share with you all, and of course from the vice principal of that school, who was equally in charge of the program.
Hello. So, one of the students, she was very happy to have stayed on to the end, and she said, the youth leadership program has been of a great importance to me. It has permitted me to learn many things and to adopt a positive attitude to life. At the beginning of this program, I could never have imagined that it was going to be so interesting, so educative, and so wonderful. But with time, I learned to know of people like Mr. Tasha, Mrs. Sandrine, and many others who are all sympathetic. Since I started attending this program, many positive changes have taken place in my life. I have learned how to control my anger, which is very important in the school milieu, because when kids are angry, they take it out on themselves, on their friends, even on their teachers, and they get frustrated with their studies. So she learned how to control her anger, how to cope with changes, how to solve disputes, and many others. So she would like to thank those who made this program possible. That was a student in Lower State Arts. Another student in probably the same class, she said it was a youth leadership program which has been set up in Cameroon, a program which helped her to learn about positive ways of seeing things in life. And she learned that we can become love finders rather than fault finders. As Tasha had said, that was a very important principle for the students. And she also learned peaceful ways to control her anger, again anger. All this helped her to become a new person, and she thinks it helped her to be at ease when communicating with people. In fact, this program helped her to be positive and not to be depressed. And the last one, also from Lower State Arts, said the Power to Choose program has helped her a lot in forgiving others and trusting them again. We know how young people love to bear grudges or sometimes bear grudges, but she has learned that bullying others is not good. There's nothing mature about bullying. And she has also learned that we can learn from others, irrespective of their age or experience. And that has helped her to be friendly, more friendly with others, because before she was a very lonely girl. But thanks to the program, she's happy mingling with others. Thank you, AHI Cameroon. So you can see that the feedback from these few students was very positive, and some of them even wrote personal small notes to Tasha. One said, "Thank you very much, Mr. Tasha. You are just like a father to me. I have learned so many things from you." Another one said, "Oh, good, Mr. Tasha. I learned many things on this session. I have to say that you are opening this leadership in giving good part and giving good advice. Thank you again. Next year, I wish to be back again. You, love and happiness is what I wish you. God bless you. I thank you for all the support you gave me, and I wish to put this in practice." So Tasha really had a wonderful time with this student, and he's going to tell us himself about the feedback from the vice principal, because they work more closely, and so he's better placed to tell us. They actually happen to have the same surname.
Thank you, Marie. That was quite interesting, because it was a coincidence that when I dropped the document that asked for the program to be implemented in the school, the principal called for Madame Tasha, which is not my madam, of course, and thought maybe we had any relationship, but we actually did not have relationship until then, and she took it actually very seriously. And because we're living in a francophone region and she was an anglophone, she could understand the program better as it was written in English, and so actually made it possible in the school, and I was very, very supportive. I would equally like us to read what she wrote at the end of the program on the first year. Marie?
So she said that when she first heard of the program, she thought that all she would need to do is just to get the students together and then make sure that there's a classroom available for this. She wasn't really looking forward to getting more involved than that, because she's also a very busy woman, and she, in her capacity, has met a lot of people coming with different programs, wanting to do different things in the school. But then the principal told her she has to follow up with this program, make sure that nothing is lacking and that everything goes well, and where sessions will hold each time, how many participants are to be in a group, how many resource persons per session, and how will participants obtain the required tools for each session. And she was a bit skeptical, because she thought that was going to take up much more of her time than she already put into school. She's actually a grandmother, and she has other things which she does apart from running the school as vice principal. But she observed the program for the first year, and she got very satisfactory feedback from the students. She says that she chose from 4 and lower 6 students. That would be maybe middle high in America, something like that, because she said they were not in like final examination classes, and so could participate much more and right up to the end. And she said that it was voluntary. Students just had to get the authorization of their parents, and she was surprised that many students did, especially during the first year. And that each time the resource person came, she had a good interaction with them, and that sometimes when they were late, she actually started the sessions, and she was able to give the students feedback and answer their questions and keep them holding in class. And then as the sessions of self progressed, she observed that the participants were really putting into practice what they were learning, and she herself was kind of inspired and motivated to keep giving us all the support. And so the day we had to close the program and give certificate, she made it possible for a small closing ceremony, and she actually made a speech, and then many of the students said the program should continue, and that is how she was able to recommend the program to the principal, and she gave very good feedback, and that is why the program was actually able to go on in that school for 2 years. So we were very grateful to the vice principal of this school for her support. And in this slide, we can see the students showing their appreciation during the end of program ceremony. I think that was the clock which they offered to Mr. Tasha, and the time is up. Maybe you can tell us how it went.
Yeah, it was really very emotional to see that those students who barely struggled to come to school were able to save their small food money in order that they should make a presentation, a gift to the Power to Choose program coordinators, so that they should show their appreciation for what they gained from the program. Not only did they present the gift, they also presented song, poems, and even sketches that was very, very emotional towards the end, and I think it was quite moving. I would also like to say that one of our goals was to make these students agents of positive change, and we wanted to teach them to start the change right where they were, right in the present moment. And so at the end of the program, they were supposed to do a micro project in their school campus first, and then later on in life they might do the same thing in the larger communities. So the first year, all of them were agreed that the first thing they want to do was to reduce the rate of bullying on their campus. And we helped produce some flyers for that. And these children, even though they were mostly lower class children, they moved right up to upper state and were very, very confident in speaking about and against bullying in school and sharing all these flyers. Like you can see, most of them moving in class and sharing the flyers. It was quite interesting because we even registered some other participants who got very curious about the program and had to come around and see how the program is being conducted. As you can see that in the first picture there was a lady from Holland, Marion, who happened to be in Cameroon by then and was so interested and supportive of the program, and was willing to come and witness the start of the program. So it was quite successful, and most of the children benefited tremendously from the program. And I think that it is something that should not be stopped in Cameroon. It's very positive. If you can see in this page, you realize the only boy in the first picture, the only boy that was in the first program, the first group, and the rest were girls. And so he was like the leader of the group. It was quite interesting. They made speech and they talked about their experiences, and that was in front of their parents, as you can see in the second picture. Some invited their parents and friends to come and witness what they have learned, and that equally made it possible for most students who even did not participate in the program to start preparing for the next year to be part of the program. So it was quite successful. And we thought that we kind of impacted the children in a way that they can truly be compassionate leaders in the future. And that was equally supported by the beautiful certificate of completion that was created at the level of AHL, and we have AHI. We are so grateful to Maria, who, and of course with Andrea, who supported us to create this certificate, and they were very happy to receive the certificate at the end. of the program, and it was like a show off to their friends and to their parents back at home of their achievement on the program. So this program ran over 2014, 2015, and 2016. Unfortunately, 2017 we were unable to continue the program there because there was a change in administration, and the new principal wanted us to reapply before he could reconsider whether we should continue or not. And also we're having some financial difficulties to move the program on at that level. So we thought the first thing to do was to reorganize ourselves and make it better. So for 2017 and 2018, we have not been able to do it on the school, but we have been active in other smaller groups in association and sports groups to be able to give this program there, and we are making bigger plans to actually unfold this program in 2018, hopefully.
What's your overall appraisal?
So in general, I think that the overall program was a great success in the sense that we achieved most of the goals that we wanted to achieve, which was to actually equip the young children who participated in that program with useful tools that could help them change their lives and the lives of the people around them. And up to today, we are still in contact with most of them, even though they are out there in life. Some are even married, but they still continue to tell us how they benefited, and they are still benefiting from what they learned from the program. So it was a program that we think that should continue, and it's very important. We cannot do without the program here in Cameroon, and we anticipate that it should go on in other countries. I think it was also very impacting for us to receive the JAMPOLSKY Award for 2014. We were honored with this JAMPOLSKY Award for the work that we did on the Power to Choose program, and that was quite motivating to us. So we are motivated to replicate the program and to make sure that the program continues in Cameroon to benefit the community at large, and of course the entire African continent, if we are able to do that.
Beautiful award.
So this is our way forward concerning this program. We are looking at stakeholders involved in this program, which we think it is a program of the Attitudinal Healing International that we are implementing, and their implication in the program implementation is quite important. And we also think that it is important for us to have some sponsors, like companies, local or international, and then some foundations that can help us with the little that we need to implement the program both in school and out of school, because we realize that there are still many more children who should benefit from the program but who are not within the school milieu, and that we don't need to keep them out. So our plan was to organize in such a way that such children will equally benefit. So the support is quite important. Also, the school administration, what we notice in GBHS, they don't, like I just said, that some administrators don't see the importance of the program, whereas others see. Some teachers as well during the program did not see the importance of the program, apart from the fact that the children are supposed to come to school and pass their exams. And so sometimes during the program, teachers will organize other classes and expect the children to come there or choose to come to the program. That was quite embarrassing for the children because of course they have come to school to learn, they have to attend their classes, but equally they realized that coming to the program was also important for their life. So having to choose between this was sometimes very difficult for them. So we needed also the participation of the teachers as well as the school administration, giving us better places to work, and the parents knowing that the children are out there doing the right thing, and the students themselves attending the program. Of course, when it comes to that, most of them were always very early when it comes to the day we are supposed to have the program. We had challenges, of course, and some of this included having enough facilitators, because in the first year we had quite a huge number of students, but we never had enough facilitators, and we could not have groups that are larger than 15. And because of that, we could not actually work with all the students that opted to go on the program. And we tried, of course, to train new facilitators that could facilitate the group the next year. We actually trained a good number of them, but in the end, they dropped out because they expected some remunerations after doing that. And it's still difficult in Cameroon to understand the principles of volunteerism. So we still have to work on that to see what we can do. And then the school cooperation as well, and the teachers, like I mentioned before, the school needs to cooperate with the facilitators to make the work easier, bring the children early, allow them to come to the program when it's time for the program, and give them ample support to support them even in class, to express themselves, to express what they have, to share what they have been taught with their peers was quite important. So the challenges also that we have include school time conflict. Like I've said, when it's time for a particular class and it's the same time for the program, it's difficult for the child to choose where to go. So their commitment can be jeopardized by that issue. And we also had difficulties accessing students in final year exam classes, because the school think that their most important thing is to write and pass their certificate exams. So those students don't have possibility to benefit from that. But to go against that, we thought maybe organizing out of school program can help such students to attend and benefit from the teachings of the program. So we were suggesting that we needed to train more facilitators for the field work, especially as we are planning to expand the program now, not only in the city of Douala, but going beyond Douala. We are equally planning to do an introductory seminar that we think will help the teachers to better understand and maybe ask for their cooperation when we organize seminars with them before the program starts within their school campus. And of course, IHE support is equally very important for us to be able to move it forward, especially when it comes to the evaluation. It's important for us to show the statistics in a better way and to follow up with the students as they go on in their life to see if they are still using the principle and stay in connection with them in case they have some difficulties. That will mean sometimes in re-inviting all those students to come back and do some refresher programs that will help them share with their other friends who are doing the program. And if they share what they learn and how it is impacting their life as they are now ahead, it can make the new students get more serious in the programs. So we equally are looking at possibilities of changing the time and the venue, because we used to do it on Wednesday, given that it was a day that is for sports, and most often the children, when it's time for sports, they just go home, most of them who are not sporty. So we thought that it is important for us to change the venue and make it more neutral for every student to come into, or a place where it is nearer their neighborhood so that they can go back home safely after the program. And we of course are looking at more outreach to elementary schools and families so that we can touch the whole fabric of the community with the Power to Choose program. And that, of course, I would like to introduce that grassroots aspect of it, which we started with Marie and her children, putting in practice this principle on a daily basis. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I do. So it was very interesting because Tasha gave me a mini course for life, and I went through that on my own, and I just thought, but why not go through this with the boys? So since we really worked together as a team for as long as I can remember, I asked them and they said, well, if it's interesting, but if it's boring, don't bring it up. So I said, well, let's just try for a day or two. And then they liked it, and then they took turns to write on the blackboard. We have a blackboard at home each day. And then they said, well, this is what we are going to do in school today. We'll tell our friends, and then we'll try to always remember we want to choose love or peace over conflict, and then we have the power to choose. And so every day we go through it. And 2 days ago we had a family meeting, because we have one every start of the month to evaluate the previous month and make our plans for the next month. And we had to evaluate what I call meditation, because we do this each morning before they go to school. And so all of them thought it was really wonderful, and it helped them to not get so angry. They don't fight each other at home. I said fighting is prohibited in my house, but even at school, they don't fight with their friends, they don't argue over things, and they actually help friends not to fight with each other. They don't go to government schools, because government schools are a bit overcrowded, like where Tasha started the program. They go to private schools, but I just thought to myself, even in those private schools, there are some children who come there from, let's say, homes with difficulties or from difficult neighborhoods. So why don't we go to one of those schools and even to the elementary one? So we dropped some applications, and we will be following that up. And then I've also talked to my neighbors about this program, and I have already like 3 neighbors who are interested, and so I'm thinking of starting a support group. So the program, the way Tasha started it, it's a good thing, but now we are trying to outreach into our own homes and into our own communities, so that everybody can benefit. And so that's how we have looked at our program, and then we can see that it has been replicated already so far around the globe, as it talked about Mongolia in the beginning, where it got this big boost on how to implement the program here and adapt it to the context. And in China, Trish was in China recently, and I envy her, because I really like to go to China too. And then in Ghana, in Kenya, in Mexico, in Rwanda, in the Netherlands, in South Africa, and the Gambia. So we see that it's a program that really reaches out to people. I mean, even at home amongst adults, when we realize that we have this power to choose, we don't let things get at us as much as when we think that we don't have no power to choose, we are helpless. So I really want to thank AHI for coming up with such an innovative and impactful program, and that we have the opportunity to implement it the way we are implementing. So that was it for our presentation, and we will now take questions if you have them. And I thank
wonderful. Thank you so much, Tasha and Marie, for sharing your experiences with this wonderful youth program.
We try to teach the youth,
and I think the information is going to be so helpful to people who are in other locations who are interested in starting this program or ones like it. So it's been really inspiring to hear you. Thanks so much. If anyone would like to ask questions, the easiest way to manage that is for you to raise your hand. And at the top of your screen, you see a little person icon with a hand raised. Just click on that, and we'll see that you have a question. If for any reason you're not able to use your microphone, you can just type your question in the chat box that's down at the lower right-hand part of your screen, and I'll be happy to read the questions. So please raise your hand or type in the box if you have a question or a comment. Kate, wonderful to hear from you. Kate, I cannot hear you yet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, wonderful.
Ah, okay. So my question's about the fact that it's a 12-week program. I imagine each time it's run that it's a new cohort of students who take the course. My question is, do children who have been through a course interact somehow with the newbies or show in behaviors or sort of attitudes to life, any change having gone through the program? Should I rephrase the question?
So, I could hear your question fine. Oh, okay.
There.
Okay. Yes, Kate, they're asking me to repeat the question, so possibly they didn't hear it clearly. As I understood the question, it was first two parts. One was to confirm that each time you offer the program, it's new students who participate. Is that your first question, Kate?
Yes, and the second half is what is the impact, if that is true, what is the impact of the students who have already participated? Do they see a difference in the community?
Okay, so some of the benefits, the impacts that the students experience, some of those things were shared in their testimonials, but Tasha and Marie, you've seen many, many students over the years go through this course. What kind of impacts do you see that you can tell Kate about?
Okay, thank you very much, Kate. Yes, the first part of your question is confirmed. Every new cohort is a new set of students. And our hope was that the old set will move forward and begin to implement things within their community or their school that will continue to showcase what they have learned in the program. And talking about the impact of the program, it could be very obvious as we wanted to see changes in their family lives, wanted to see some changes in their academic life. One of the first things is that, yes, each student who participated in the program tend to improve in performance in class, which means he was more conscious of what he came to do. Because most students fail exams not because they are stupid or dull, but because they are following other things when they come to school. But when the students realize that despite all what was happening around them, they had the power to choose to do what they came to school to do, naturally their performance in class improved. So that was observed clearly and was commented by the principal. Equally, the way they were interacting, if we look at the vice principal's comment, she realized that she could easily pick out those students who were participating in the program just by the way they approach each other and the way they were taking their job seriously. If they are asked to sweep, they sweep with joy. If they are asked to do anything on campus, they do it with joy. And of course, they don't litter the campus with field or throw dirt all around the place. So those were some immediate impacts that one could observe just after the program. But others, of course, once they go home, you find that they were now repairing damages that they had with the relationship that they had with their parents.
So, Tasha and Marie, I don't know if you know that Kate is from South Africa.
that put to
And
them
she's
some of the
working
impact that we had
healing there.
about the program. Thank you very much, Kate. I hope it answers your question. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Wow.
We're working with Smith in South Africa, who's, I can't remember the time when he was living, but that was the person that we're in touch with in South Africa. So we're very glad to work with Kate from South Africa. Thank you very much, Kate.
And how is AH in South Africa? So, what can you say? Wow. Have you read what Lynn said? Lynn is very impressed and proud to know the motivation in giving programs we are offering to our community. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Lee. I'm very glad that you are online and you managed to be there. I'm so proud of what you did to support us, and we will continue the job in as much as we see the need to continue. And I think there's that need, and we want to thank you all for your support, your financial
it's in New York.
your moral support, and everything.
Yeah. And Patty is saying their dream is to take this program to the children, especially in the inner city. So we are doing a wonderful job. Yeah. Where is Heartlight Center? Where is Patty? Okay. Yeah, the children there, they definitely need this program. Because when we start with children at a much younger age, they grow up with it. And they easily influence each other much more as they grow up. That is really true. Thank you so much, Patty.
And I think Patty got the definition for the principles of attitudinal healing. Am I wrong?
That's okay. Patty is in New York also, but
I want to confirm that the definition for attitudinal healing principle that is online was written by Patty Roberts. Is that right?
Passed away a few years ago.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Wow. Okay. And Kate is saying that her friend gave her Smith, so it's her friend.
Yes.
We introduced her to AH, and he recently came to the community to teach them, and they're teaching some young men who are now becoming ambassadors in nearby townships. Yeah, and I think that's a good idea.
Very glad that Kate
are
knows
there any
Kate
other
Smith. I was supposed
or
to ask. I had a
comments that anyone would
program
like
to
to
South
make?
Africa to work with Peter Smith on that, but unfortunately we didn't find enough funds to make that trip. And I still dream of meeting Peter Smith, and this time I'm going to meet Kate too. That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Please go ahead,
Thank you very
Patty.
much, Patty.
I just wanted to
So we want that.
hearing your wonderful stories and your success has inspired us to move forward in our program here.
Yes,
So
I
while
will.
Patty is writing,
So I
we
don't know
want to keep
if you
thinking
could
of
hear
Jerry, who
Patty.
started this whole
Her voice
thing,
was a little bit
and show
faint,
our
but she
gratitude
was
and we came up with this little sticker.
Yes.
Jerry is closing Diane's eyes. I hope Jerry can see that. Maybe you show it to him too.
Yes. I know it's getting late for you there in on the continent, for all of you.
But we were just saying thank you so much.
We're so happy.
And Susan is also
So
saying
thank
probably
you all
the same
for
thing.
joining us, and thank
Kate
you,
will
Marie and
probably
Tasha,
say the
for
same thing in
your
South
wonderful
Africa.
presentation.
And then we will probably call it a day, you know.
So if there's anything you want to say to close before we say goodbye, please do so.
We break it. We break it. Okay.
Yes, I want to say thank you to you, Trish, first of all.
You're so welcome. We love you and look forward to staying in touch with all of you.
Jerry and Diane and all those who participated today, Kate, Patty, Susan.
Do you want to turn on your webcam and say goodbye?
We are so grateful that you were here today, and
okay.
we can never thank you enough, especially you, Trish. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh,
yes, we will. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Love you.
Sure, we will. Pleasure. There's nothing that we can do to us. And we end up sitting almost together, so